Have you ever wondered why we call Good Friday good? I mean, it's not good. What happened there is bad. It's the worst that could happen, but we call it good. So why do we call something so bad good? Well, let's take a look at that. And let me begin by saying that there have been a lot of great battles fought in the history of the world to determine the fate of countless millions of people. I think of Thermopylae. I've been there in Greece. The Spartans hold back the Persians, 500 of them, 180 BC. Hey, the Battle of Hastings in 1066, England and France. Stalingrad, 1943. And one of my favorites, Gettysburg. I've walked those fields of that battle many, many times. That day, that summer day in July in 1863. And then, of course, there was D-Day. They've been major decisive battles in the history of the world that have determined the fates of millions and millions of people. But the greatest, fiercest battle of all history was fought 2,000 years ago in an olive grove outside of Jerusalem. It was a battle fought for the destiny of the whole world, for your life and mine. It was a battle between good and evil. Luke records the conflict in great detail. He writes about the journey of the cross and the battle that Jesus wages there for you and me. He writes these words, "And he came out and went, as was his custom, to the Mount of Olives. And the disciples followed him. And when he came to the place, he said to them, 'Pray that you may not enter into temptation.'" Okay, so what's going on here? Well, Jesus comes out. He had been to the Last Supper. They had shared a meal together. He had urged his followers, his closest followers, at that meal to remember what he was saying there and what he was about to do. And of course, their response was, "There's no way that we'd ever forget what you said." But Jesus responded, "I know you. I know you human beings. You tend to forget. So remember." And then, after that meal, the Lord's Supper, the Last Supper, he led them from the upper room, and they made their way through the streets of Jerusalem in the middle of the night, in the darkness, crossed the Kidron Valley, and climbed a hill to a garden of olives, Gethsemane. It's named after the oil presses there, the olive oil that they would press there and use in their daily work and their daily lives. But in the midst of that olive garden of Gethsemane, he turns and he faces them and he tells them that there is going to be enormous opposition to what he is about to do, and it will cost him his life. And he withdrew from them about a stone's throw and knelt down and prayed, saying, "Father, if you are willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done." Now, it would be easy to pass over some of the words and some of the actions that are taking place here, but Luke tells us he knelt down, having fallen on his knees. Our custom is to kneel for prayer, but for the Jew, for the Hebrew, they stood for prayer, outstretched their arms, and looked to heaven. But Jesus kneels. He falls on the ground, literally falling on the ground. You see, he's doing that, Luke's telling us, he's absolutely overwhelmed at the horror of this moment, and he is driven to his knees. Now the question becomes, what could drive the Son of God to sink to his knees? On Good Friday, we tend to concentrate on the physical suffering of the cross. But the text doesn't say, if you look closely, it doesn't say, "Take this cross from me." He gives us an indication of what's so overwhelming to him. He doesn't say, "Take this cross from me. Take this journey from me. Take this pain from me. Take this fear from me." No, that's not what he says. He says, "Take this cup from me." A cup. What Jesus fears is something far greater than the physical torture of the cross. He fears the cup, which begs the question, what is this cup that he's talking about? What is this cup that he says, "Take from me"? Spare me from the cup. What is he talking about there? Well, we read in the Psalms, "For in the hand of the Lord there is a cup with foaming wine, well mixed, and he pours out from it, and all the wicked of the earth shall drain it down to the dregs." 1,000 years earlier, David writes of this cup filled with the toxic venom of the sin of the whole world, past, present, and future. I mean, just imagine for a moment. Every crime, every anger, every betrayal, every atrocity in the history of the world is poured into one cup. And it's this cup that Jesus must drink. And he must drink every drop to the very dregs, to the bottom. That the only way that God can save fallen people is if his Son drinks the cup of your sin and mine. This cup, and this cup alone, and Jesus must drink it. It's a cup so horrible, so dreadful, so grotesque, that he begs his Father, if there's any other way, God, if there is any other way, my Father, if there's any other way to redeem these people, then take this cup from me. In John, we find these words. Jesus commanded Peter, put your sword away. Shall I not drink the cup the Father has given me? A short while later, Jesus is arrested in the garden, and Peter draws his sword. He wants to fight the Roman soldiers. He ends up cutting off the right ear of one of them. But Jesus said to him, put your sword away. This is my fight for you. I have to drink of this cup. Shall I not drink of the cup that the Father has given to me? You know, there's this story of the mother of James and John that comes to Jesus, and she asks him, can my son sit at your right hand in the kingdom of heaven? I mean, you're God, now we're close to you, and you really like them, and why don't you just elevate them? And Jesus says to them in Matthew, you don't know what you're asking. Can you drink the cup I am going to drink? He is saying, let's get this straight. You want one of your sons to drink of the cup of the sins of the whole world? Is that what you want? Oh, no. We're not going to mess with that. That's my job. You have no idea what you're asking. I must drink of the cup. It's the metaphor for the sins of the whole world, for yours and for mine. And while we find this imagery of the cup throughout the life of Jesus, it is not hard to identify the exact moment that Jesus drinks of the cup. Luke records for us, it was now about noon, and the darkness came over the whole land until 3 p.m, for the sun stopped shining. Luke tells us it's noon. The sun is at its zenith, its highest point in the heavens, and then, unexpectedly, it got dark. The sun stopped shining. Darkness filled the land for 3 hours. Campfires are struck, candles are lit, the soldiers are jumping. Listen, the whole world goes dark. What's happening here? Well, nature is bowing to the Creator. God is using the dark to bear witness to the trauma of the moment. We know in the Bible that light is the sign of the presence of the nearness of God. The closer to God we get, the brighter it gets. When we're in heaven, it's all brightness. It's all light coming from the Shekinah glory of God. There's no artificial light whatsoever. It's brightness all the time. We were created to live in the light. Darkness, conversely, is the absence of the presence of God. It is the withdrawal of God. On the Day of Atonement, which Jesus and his disciples celebrated there in Jerusalem before the Last Supper, salvation is represented by the lamb of sacrifice. And then there's the scapegoat, another animal there that's driven into the wilderness, that is cursed, that is cast out into the darkness, representing if you don't receive the salvation of the lamb, you will receive the life of the scapegoat and be cast into the utter darkness forever. And Jesus knows when he drinks the cup, he will be drinking the cup of the sins of the whole world, the darkness of the whole world, being cast out. Not only the lamb of the sacrifice, but he becomes the scapegoat as well. God can't look at his son any longer, and he curses him, and he casts him out into the darkness. And that's why the son cries, my God, why have you forsaken me? You see, at that moment, the horrors of humanity meet the holiness of God. He becomes hideous, vile, repulsive to the sight of God, to the presence of God. So God pours out the full curse of his wrath upon his one and only Son. He becomes God forsaken. That's why it's not the cross that he fears, it's the cup. He drank of the cup of the sins of the whole world. Every bad thought, every foul word, every secret failure that you and I will ever commit was all put into that cup. All of the worst of humanity. Imagine it, of all history. And it's of that cup that Jesus has to drink, every last drop. And what he does when he drinks of that, when he fills himself with that sin, debt is paid, redemption is accomplished, the battle is over, the cup is empty. He drinks of the cup of redemption so that you and I can drink of the cup of salvation. Yeah, that's what happens there on the cross. It's amazing. It's spectacular. It's unbelievable. It's called amazing, amazing grace. Jesus takes on, drinks, receives the sins of the whole world. And when he does, God casts him out. Now, he defeats all of that sin. He defeats the devil. He's resurrected. The good news is there is light. There is goodness. That's what we celebrate on Easter Sunday. But we can't understand Easter Sunday without understanding the bad of Good Friday. Remember, Jesus said. And on the Lord's Supper, when we come to the communion rail, we say, take, drink. This is the cup of salvation. Do this in remembrance of me. The great battle has been fought. The great cup has been emptied. The great victory has been won. Our custom in our country after a great battle is to build a monument to consecrate and remember what happened there and who fought there and why they died there and what they sacrificed. We have a mall of memorials in Washington, D.C. to represent the great battles that our country has fought so that we will never, ever, ever, ever forget. Jesus didn't ask for a memorial or a monument or a statue. He said, I'm going to make this much, much more personal. How are you going to remember me? Not with a mall of monuments, not with statues, not with buildings, with the Lord's Supper. Come to my table. You will remember me by my table. I am inviting you to come there and remember what I've done. So this Good Friday, we will come to the Lord's table and we will receive and we will take and we will drink and we will get filled, not with the darkness of the curse, but of the light of the blessing. We're moving from darkness into light. I remember when I was a kid, I saw The Wizard of Oz in a big movie theater. It was the first time that there was living Technicolor. Everything had been black and white until that time. And in the middle of that movie, it turns, or in the early beginning of the movie, it turns from darkness, from black and white, after the tornado, the chaos, to Dorothy landing in Oz, and light, living Technicolor, bright, brilliant light. And that's the kind of light that God wants us to live in, living Technicolor. Because he drank of the cup, you and I can be born again. God wants to fill us with new life. God wants to fill us with light. So on this Good Friday, will you take that day and remember the cup? And I'm going to pray that you'll take this message with you this Good Friday. I think it's an important reminder for all of us. We're all called to remember what happens on Good Friday so we can understand what happens on Easter Sunday. And I know if you go to church that we concentrate on Easter Sunday and about a quarter maybe of the church-going folks go on Good Friday and miss the meaning of Easter Sunday. On Easter Sunday, something very, very good happened because on Good Friday, something very, very bad happened that God took through his son Jesus and made very, very good for you and for me.